Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian. I'm streaming to you live from beautiful Victoria here, the capital city of British Columbia on the west coast of Canada. I hope everybody is having a good weekend so far, staying healthy, staying strong. Kyber, I see that you're going to the airport. I know that the situation's quite intense in Afghanistan, so I hope all the best for you. Ansh, thank you so much for your kindness. Paulo, Mohit, good to see members in the class. Students, we are looking at speaking part 3 for the IELTS exam, looking at these complex answers for a band 9. And that's what these part 3 answers are. They're complex, compound sentences with multiple elements, and we'll go over them in just a few moments while we wait for a few more of your peers. This lesson is brought to you by aehelp.com. For academic IELTS success, visit us there. For the general IELTS, visit us at IELTShelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. On both of those websites, we have lots and lots of information to help you improve your English and communication for the test. I'm actually logged into my AE Help account here, so I'll show you what the homepage looks like. It looks like this with the blue background, and you can click this big red button to join our premium package. It is a one-time payment for lifetime access. For the general IELTS, it's this website here with the green background. It's gieltshelp.com. Again, click that big red button to join the premium package. We're an official British Council IELTS registration center and certified agents, so you are in good hands with us. Hi again, Ois, Rashika, Deepika, good to have all of you in here. So tomorrow at this time, everyone, comes episode 1 of my IELTS Band 9 journey to YouTube. I sat the official IELTS exam a few months back in Hungary, Budapest, and I'm going to share my experience and marks and all that's entailed with you starting tomorrow. So it's a 5-part series. There will be 1 episode coming out each week, so make sure to hang around for those tomorrow at this time, and I'll join you for that premiere. If you have questions about the academic IELTS exam or about the general IELTS exam, send me an email to aehelp.com. So Adrian at aehelp.com, and we'll get back to you quite quickly. All right, everyone. So again, we've got speaking part 3 right now. We've got that premiere tomorrow. Monday, Tuesday, no class, and then on the 1st, I'll be back with speaking part 1, and this schedule will be up later today on our Instagram and YouTube community board. By the way, our Instagram is IELTS_AEHelp and GIELTS help. Okay. So, Sajal, you will find out all of those answers in the series starting tomorrow. All right, so let's get into speaking part 3. Now, this is speaking, so make sure to speak and repeat. Okay, so copy my intonation, my pronunciation, my enunciation. Speaking part 3 follows from speaking part 2, and half an hour ago, we finished our speaking part 2 class. What was that speaking part 2 about? Everybody remember? What was it about? We just finished it. I know some of our students were in that class, especially our members. I know you were there, so hopefully you did not forget over the last 30 minutes what that was about. And I'm guessing you're going to remind everybody that it was about an item that you returned to the store, and specifically we talked about Nike running shoes. Okay. So the way it works for part 3 is the examiner will actually ask you a question that's connected to your part 2 response. Okay. So one question will be directly related, and then the next questions will be connected to the topic. So when you're finished part 2, the examiner will say, okay, that's the end of part 2. Now we will continue with part 3. For part 3, I will ask you a question connected to your response in part 2, and then some questions related to this topic. So what kind of question do you think the examiner might ask you if you talked about returning your Nike shoes to the store for 2 minutes? Okay, and Mohit, very good. Mohit says it was an object that you bought and returned. All right. Yep, Charmin says the defective Nike shoes. So what kind of a question might follow? I'll give you an example of a question. Okay, the examiner might ask you something like, something like this. What advice can you give to a person that wants to return their shoes to the store? Okay, so examiner might ask you something like that. Okay, they'll come up with a good question. It's not going to be absurd or extremely difficult. It shouldn't be. Sometimes students have said that the question was kind of weird that they asked afterwards, but okay, Oa says, is it common in your country for most stores you can return sold items? Okay, yeah, Oa, so a little bit better phrased. Is it common in your country for stores to accept returns on purchased items? That would be the question, Oas. Okay. All right. Good. So yeah. A proud nerd says the advice would be to keep the receipt for that item. Honey Brar says, why do people generally return their shoes? Maybe. Honey, it would be Honey Brar. It would be more directly related to your response. So they would say, what are some common reasons people return their shoes? Yeah, so these could be absolutely some of the questions that the examiner might ask you if you talked for 2 minutes about taking your Nike shoes back to the store, okay? So they will be directly related. Let's try to answer these, students. So give me some nice full sentence answers. So here we go. First question. What advice can you give to a person that wants to return their shoes to the store? Okay, so one of you already said, I would suggest that they keep the original receipt as proof of purchase. Also, let's see what you come up with, okay? Tushar says, I'll advise the person not to remove any tags from the shoes and make sure to carry the bill. You mean the receipt along with them. Receipt is what you get that proves your purchase. Bill, Tushar, the bill is actually what you're being charged. So when you go to a restaurant, the first piece of paper you get is the bill. That's how much you have to pay. When you pay, they give you a receipt. The receipt shows that they received the payment. Okay, so bill and receipt are a little bit different. All right. Paulo says, for a person that wants to return their shoes, I would advise them to keep the original package and the receipt before heading to the store. Yeah, absolutely. Also, it is a good idea to keep the original package and not remove the tags until the person is absolutely sure that they will not return the shoes. Okay, sure. Of course, another piece of advice I would give is make sure the shoes aren't dirty. Stores do not like to take back shoes that have been muddied or that are dirty. So you might say something like, finally, I would advise the person to keep the shoes clean, as stores may not take them back if they are dirty. Okay, great. Good. So we're getting into it. I haven't gotten into too much strategy yet, but I will. This is just to kind of get you warmed up. So again, speak and repeat, everyone. So copy what I say. Here we go. What advice can you give to a person that wants to return their shoes to the store? I would suggest that they keep the original receipt as proof of purchase. Also, it is a good idea to keep the original package and not remove the tags until the person is absolutely sure that they will not return the shoes. Finally, I would advise the person to keep the shoes clean, as stores may not take them back if they're dirty. Notice how I have the word suggest, because here the focus is advice. Okay. Good idea is kind of a paraphrase for suggesting here. Okay. Emphasis and stress is on absolutely, absolutely sure, as you heard me say that. Okay. And then to keep the shoes clean. So here's a different word form for advice. Advise, the verb form. Noun form, verb form. Okay. So here we go one more time. Repeat and follow with me. So I would suggest that they keep the original receipt as proof of purchase. Also, it is a good idea to keep the original package and not remove the tags until the person is absolutely sure that they will not return the shoes. Finally, I would advise the person to keep the shoes clean, as stores may not take them back if they're dirty. Okay. All right. So, good. Now, the next question. Is it common in your country for stores to accept returns on purchased items? Give me a nice full sentence answer for this one. I'm quite curious. Okay, so give me a nice full sentence. Is it common in your country for stores to accept returns on purchased items? Okay, let's see what you come up with. XD1Rex says, yes, indeed, stores are obligated to offer such an option to satisfy the customers and fulfill the customers' rights. XDR1Rex, what country? Okay, especially here, we have no idea which country you're from. Jasur says, it is generally acceptable to return defective objects in my country. In my case, I easily exchanged my Nike running shoes and got a new pair. Jasur, nice connection with your part 2 response. That's exactly what you want to do. And again, mention your country. Chabi, good to see you in the class. Satisfying Time says, in my country, Algeria, most of the stores offer returns and replacements. However, it's not always good for customers, as they can manipulate policies and make is so tight. I don't know what you have at the end there, but the beginning is very good. Chabi, I like how you mentioned that it's Algeria. Okay. Hang Yuan says, it depends. People can return or exchange items in small stores, but it's difficult to do this when you purchased in supermarkets or big stores. Hang Yuan, okay, it's not me, because I don't live there. I live in Canada. So it's not you can return, it's I can return, okay? And mention your country. I'm guessing you're in Vietnam by your name. But again, you want to mention that. So be specific, students, okay? Deepika says, it depends on the store policy. A few shops do accept returns and a few don't. It's important to check with the store before you purchase the item. Ask them about their return policy, right? Okay, Kwan Law says a couple of options that stores apply to customers is a new pair of identical shoes with an additional 15% off on the next purchase, or a refund on shoes could be in effect for the customer. Kwan La, you're not answering the question. The question is it common in your country for stores to accept returns on purchased items? You have to answer that question. Okay. So I will give you a sample answer for this. Here we go. Okay. All right. So is it common in your country for stores to accept returns? Yes. It is very commonplace in Canada for retailers to accept returns and exchanges for purchased products, as the golden rule states that the customer is always right. Businesses in Canada want to retain their customers and want to have a good reputation, so that they can stay in business for a long time. For this reason, I had no problem whatsoever to return my Nike shoes. All right. So when you are responding to a question, especially the question that's connected to your part 2 response, follow up with a connected answer. So here I included the Nike shoes that I talked about in part 2. Okay. And I want to give details. So even though we're doing the exam in Canada, I want to name the country as a Canadian. So if you're sitting the IELTS exam in Canada, but you're from another country, the examiner doesn't know where you're from necessarily, or they're not thinking about it. So you should explain it or emphasize it. Okay. Here we go. Is it common in your country for stores to accept returns on purchased items? Yes, it is very commonplace in Canada for retailers to accept returns and exchanges for purchased products, as the golden rule states that the customer is always right. Businesses in Canada want to retain their customers and want to have a good reputation so that they can stay in business for a long time. For this reason, I had no problem whatsoever to return my Nike shoes. Okay, so answer, explanation, example. There's the answer, there's the explanation, and there's the example, and the example connects to the part 2 answer. And that's what you want to do for that band 9. So give an answer plus explanation. So why stores in your country take back items, and an example. And with the example, connect to part 2 response when possible. Okay, you'll build more points for your coherence and for your fluency as well. Okay, is that clear, everyone? So there's a couple of very important strategies that I just showed you here to get a high band score. Answer, explain, example, use your part 2 response to connect your example. Okay, can I get some thumbs up or some of these so that I know that you're figuring this out? If you have questions about this, certainly ask me. Okay, all right. And I wouldn't really go with responses like it depends. I would go with a yes or a no, or most of the time. Okay, all right. No Tran says thumbs up. Raj says double thumbs up. Bachrat says gotcha. Good. All right. Very nice. Okay. So here's the next question. Try it out, okay? So the examiner won't ask you this many follow-up questions. They'll usually ask you 1 or 2. It's uncommon to ask 3. They'll get into the part 3 topic after that. But just for practice, we'll do one more. So what are some common reasons that people return their shoes to the store? Okay, give me a nice full sentence answer. Deepika, even if the examiner does know which country you're from, they're not necessarily thinking about it. And when they meet with 20, 30 people, it's very useful for them for clear communication to hear details like your country or your state or your city. Okay. So Iqbal says, most of the time there are a bunch of reasons related to comfortability, and sometimes it depends on the shopkeeper, what they've packaged. They might have packaged the wrong or defective product. Iqbal, stick to shoes, okay? You're generalizing. You want to stick to shoes. Sebastian Diaz says, one common reason people return their shoes to the store is due to the poor build quality. Moreover, the shoe isn't quite the same as they displayed on the web page if it's a online order, right, Sebastian? Okay. Satisfying Time says, from my personal experience, people return their shoes for not liking them in natural light as much as they did when they saw it on display in the store. And then keep going. Satisfying Times. Okay, I made a few corrections there. All right. Albin Baby says, some reasons for returning shoes may be that people have changed their mind, they're not satisfied with the product, or they're looking for something that's a bit better. Okay, Albin Baby. And then aside from having a defect like the sole coming off, but maybe you weren't in the last class, so you didn't know that. Okay. Udit says, people in my country generally return shoes when the quality is low or it's misfit. For example, I returned my Nike shoes because it was cutting into my ankle. I actually had that happen with a pair of running shoes, Udit, so that's a good response. Yeah, cutting into my ankle. Not cutting my ankle is a bit weird. Cutting into my ankle. Okay, cutting is, it's understandable. It's okay. I would say rubbing my ankle. Or chafing, if you really want to learn the most accurate word. It's chafing. So aside from a defect, like the sole of the shoe coming off, as I had mentioned, some other reasons people may return their sneakers are because of a wrong size, or discomfort, such as the shoe chafing the ankle. All right, so here we go. Repeat after me. What are some common reasons that people return their shoes to the store? Aside from a defect, like the sole of the shoe coming off, as I had mentioned, some other reasons people may return their sneakers are because of a wrong size or discomfort, such as the shoe chafing the ankle. Chafing means it's rubbing, and rubbing so much that the skin is coming off. English is a beautiful language with extremely deep vocabulary, and this is a good proof of that. So in English, you actually have a verb that means rubbing to the point of removing skin or causing damage to tissue, and that word is chafing. And believe it or not, most native English speakers will know the word chafing. Okay, so indeed, if you're looking for that band 9 score, you really have to Do a lot of reading, a lot of listening so that you can learn these very specific kinds of words. Okay? All right. Okay, so at this point, the examiner will introduce some questions that are related to the topic of part 2. Okay? All right, so the examiner will say, let's talk about defective products. And that's going to be good because you just had a whole part 2 speaking about your defective shoes. So you're very lucky if this happens. Because it's directly related, so you can make lots of connections. First question. If a person buys a defective product, what options do they usually get from stores to remedy the situation? Okay. So again, give me a nice full sentence answer for this one. If a person buys a defective product, what options do they usually get from stores to remedy the situation? This is a conditional. It's an if this, then that. So make sure to use the question in your answer. That's a very good strategy. Okay, so in this case, use the question, the condition in your answer to improve your marks and get a higher band score. Okay? So use the if this then that situation. Lakshmi says, super, sir, explanation. Excellent explanation. You're very welcome, Lakshmi. If you want lots more speaking videos in HD, definitely check out our premium packages. Paulo Reese says, to remedy this bad situation, people can get another product or a discount so they can get another product whenever they want without paying the full price. Paulo, it's not called a discount in this case. What is it called? It's something else. So if you take your product back and you don't want to buy or spend your money right away and they don't give you your money back, you get something else. What is that called in English? Okay. Proud Nerd says, if people get a defective item, they would probably get a free pair of the same item or maybe a discount. Yeah, possibly a discount. There's another word or another collocation that's better for that. Udit says, if the product is defective, then many stores offer refunds or, there we go, store credits. But people here in India are very friendly. So they usually just give a refund or an exchange. Okay, Udit, very good. Yeah, that's what I was looking for, is the store credit. Tushar says, often the person will get an opportunity to get the item fixed without charge. This is available in most stores, or they get store credit, possibly a refund, or as what I did, they can exchange the item for a new one, right? Very good. So think about what most people would say. So, given the situation, right? If a person buys a defective product, given the situation, all right, it's the condition. So given that, if that, provided that. Okay, these are different ways to paraphrase the condition, if a person, all right? So given the situation when a person purchases a defective item, in most cases, vendors, okay? So again, lots of ways to paraphrase stores, and you want to paraphrase the questions in your answers so that you're building your lexical resource marks, okay? So given the situation when a person purchases a defective item, in most cases, vendors offer either an exchange or a refund, okay? Now I'm using a correlative conjunction, either or. Examiners love to hear these kinds of conjunctions used in responses, either or, neither nor, whether or, not only but also. So use these, okay? So given the situation when a person purchases a defective item, in most cases, vendors offer either an exchange or a refund as well. Some stores may offer a store credit, or if the item is not completely new, they may repair it free of charge. Okay? All right, here we go. Repeat after me. If a person buys a defective product, what options do they usually get from stores to remedy the situation? Given the situation, when a person purchases a defective item, in most cases, vendors offer either an exchange or a refund as well. Some stores may offer store credit, or if the item is not completely new, they may repair it free of charge, especially if it's under warranty. Okay? All right. Follow-up question. Are all of these always available? So more specifically, what the examiner is asking you here is, are all of these options always available? Again, give a nice full sentence answer for this one. So, are all of these options always available? Baccarat says, that's an interesting question. I haven't experienced this situation. Give me a moment. In this condition, most of the companies repair the products without paying off, and it can return to customers. Baccarat, it's a little bit confusing. Just say yes or no, okay? Sarah says, quick question. How can we buy ourselves some time when we need to think about something? Sarah, very good question. You can do it exactly as Baccarat just said. So you can say, you can use natural fillers. It's okay to use I know that many students have heard from teachers that you can't use That's not true. I used in my my speaking section in the IELTS exam, in the real IELTS exam. And I used quite a bit, and I still got a band 9. So does not detract. It only detracts if you break your speech using all the time. But if you say, I need to think about that for a moment. I suppose if I'm being very critical, the answer would be. So there are natural phrases which humans in every language will use to buy a bit of time in order to think of better answers. And I do that all the time. I do it in these live classes as well. So you can always Google these. If you Google this phrase, English phrases used in communication to buy time, I'm sure you will get lots of hits for lots of web pages. In fact, you know what? It's a good idea. We'll put up a blog on our websites that will focus on this. I think that's a great idea. How does that sound? Yeah? So we've got lots of fantastic blogs on our websites that discuss lots of valuable topics and answers to questions like this. So we can do that. Okay? All right. So Rashika answers this question by saying, no, all of these options are not available for all products in my country. Food shops and pharmacies are not allowed to take back items when they've been opened. Okay, very good. So Rashika, that's a great start. The answer would be no. In fact, some stores and some items have a strict no return policy. Some that come to mind are pharmacies, baby products, as well as foodstuffs. I definitely recommend checking the return policy, especially when purchasing an expensive item. Okay, so here we go. Are all of these options always available? I need to think about that for a moment. I suppose if I'm being very critical, the answer would be no. In fact, some stores and some items have a strict no return policy. Some that come to mind are pharmacies, baby products, as well as foodstuffs. I definitely recommend checking the return policy, especially when purchasing an expensive item. Okay, that's a little bit off topic at the end, but it's a nice way to finish this idea. Okay. Buckrat says, no, most of the times stores do not repair products when the customer has needs for that. In this situation, a person should have to visit the repair center or exchange the product and get another one. Okay, Buckrat, that'll work. All right. Rajat, thank you. Please don't spam, okay? All right. So, here's the next question. Why might it be a bad idea to continue using a product even if it has a manufacturing defect? Okay, so again, another conditional. Again, if you need some time, say that's an interesting question. It's an important question. So why might it be a bad idea to continue using a product even if it has a manufacturing defect? Full sentence. Answer. Explain. Example. Have a great rest of your day, Ken. Whatever you do, do it 100%. Make sure you enjoy it. All right. Learn English says, that's an interesting question. I don't think that every choice will be available all the time because they have the power to make rules as well as it is the customer's duty to check. The customer's responsibility. Okay, so why might it be a bad idea to continue using a product even if it has a manufacturing defect? I don't think you've answered that question, Learn English. Hang Yuan says, it is a terrible idea to continue using defective products because the users will feel uncomfortable and regret buying that item. All right. Oh, it says because using defective items leads to a waste of money, it also leads to a negative impact on our health. If I continue using my Nike shoes, it would hurt my feet. Exactly, Ois. Very nice connection. Beautiful answer, Ois. Ois, your grammar has really, really improved since you started. You've gone up at least a few band scores. So when you first started, Ois, your grammar was like a 4 or 5. Now you're up at like a 7, 8. So that's really, really good. Okay, great job. I can tell you've been studying a lot of English over the course of the last year, and that's great. Nagame Un says, it is a terrible idea to stick with a defective product as this can lead to the owner's dissatisfaction with the brand and the products. Problems happen all the time. Customers should check the store policies and have the best experience. If I had used my defective Nike shoes, I might get a sore ankle, and that's why I exchanged it. Very good, On. Very nice answer, explanation, example, connection. Band 9, as long as you say that fluently. Even if you have a bit of an accent, your pronunciation is not 100% English sounding, you'll still get a band 9 for that, On, as long as you're fluent. Okay? All right. Let's see. It is probably a bad idea because the government has nowadays strict regulations on customer satisfaction. So when we have amenity to get justice, we simply cannot let it go by losing our money. That's confusing. I don't know what you mean by that. So even if you said that fluently, it would be like a band 4, band 5. Okay. So the Prazol says it might be a terrible idea because using these damaged goods will create a sort of dissatisfaction for the customer, which will ultimately affect their future choices in their shopping. Okay. All right, sure. So it is a terrible idea to continue using a damaged item, not only because of wasting money and poor performance, but also it may be a serious health hazard. Had I continued running with my damaged sneakers, I would have hurt my feet and probably taken a bad fall. Okay. So here we go. Again, watch that correlative conjunction. So why might it be a bad idea to continue using a product even if it has a manufacturing defect? Watch the paraphrasing as well. It is a terrible idea to continue using a damaged item, not only because of wasting money and poor performance, but also it may be a serious health hazard. Had I continued running with my damaged sneakers, I would have hurt my feet and probably taken a bad fall. Okay, so again, lots of paraphrasing, answer, explanation, example, emphasizing with that correlative conjunction, the not only, but also. Okay. Are there any exceptions to this? So, are there any exceptions to this concept of using a defective product? So, give me a nice answer for this one. Once again, part 3, the examiner is going into details. They're going into depth. It's conversation style. They're really exploring your ability to hold a conversation in specific topics. So are there any exceptions to this, to the damage and discomfort caused by defective products? Okay. Yasha Patel says, if the product is defective, then it is a terrible idea to continue using the product as it might lead to health hazards. Okay, very good. If I continue using electronic device, it might lead to an electrocution. You might get electrocuted. Okay, and there's a verb for that. All right. XD1 Rex, is it okay if I have a natural stutter answering questions? Yes, but you should indicate that in your application for the IELTS exam. So tomorrow, when I go through my registration for my Band 9 IELTS journey at this time, we're premiering that video, I will talk about that point as well. So what you need to indicate on your registration form, like stammering or stuttering in the speaking section. But Russ says, maybe the person has a chance to get the same product after using it for a week or a month or so. My friend John had this experience and received a gift for the same item. I think it's a little bit off topic here. H0023 Siam says, yes, there is an exception for this. Using the product from the local market companies, it's not only cheap, but also valuable and trustworthy. Okay. Proud Nerd says, the rare cases where we are imposed on using the product is when we buy that item during a tour to another country, so it hinders us from the chance of returning it to the original shop. Very good, Proud Nerd. That's the first good answer. So are there any exceptions to this? Yes, when it's impossible to return the product and in situations where it might not be dangerous. Okay. So, that's an interesting question. Allow me a moment to think. Usually there are exceptions. So when they're asking you these questions, it's because they know that there are usually answers to this question. So that's an interesting question. Allow me a moment to think. Yes, I suppose there are some circumstances where people do not need to return a defective product or may not have the opportunity. For instance, if the defect is cosmetic, like a small scratch on the back of a mobile phone, it may not be worth the time and effort to take it back to the store. Okay? So are there any exceptions to this? That's an interesting question. Allow me a moment to think. Yes, I suppose there are some circumstances when people do not need to return a defective product or may not have the opportunity. For instance, if the defective product is or if the defect is cosmetic, like a small scratch on the back of a mobile phone, it may not be worth the time and effort to take it back to the store. Okay? So if it's something minor, right? If the damage or the defect is so small that it really doesn't matter all that much and you're not going to spend half a day to replace a pair of shoes because there's a small black dot on the side of the sole or something like that, then obviously you're not going to worry about it. So one more time, repeat after me. Are there any exceptions to this? That's an interesting question. Allow me a moment to think. Yes, I suppose that there are some circumstances where people do not need to return a defective product or may not have the opportunity. For instance, if the defect is cosmetic, like a small scratch on the back of a mobile phone, it may not be worth the time and effort to take it back to the store. Okay? All right, so lots and lots of new vocabulary and definitely some important points on strategy. Okay, make sure to practice these. Here are some more questions related to this speaking part 3 topic. Let's talk about customer satisfaction. Try these questions on your own. You can try practicing these questions with other students who are in our chat or who watch our channel at aehelp.com, gieltshelp.com. Again, students, when you are logged on in your My Student account at aehelp.com, you have this student partner speaking option, and this is actually the real thing. I'm using this website live right now. You open up that student partner speaking option, and there's usually at least a few students hanging out in here waiting for somebody to video or audio chat. Right now we have Yaroslav and Vaidik, and they're hanging out waiting for somebody to practice IELTS with them. It's absolutely free, and you can do that on our general IELTS website as well. So if you like the product, click that big red button, join the premium package. That's it today. Thank you, Eugen, for those happy emojis to kick off the weekend. Thank you, members, for your participation. And everybody, remember, tomorrow at this exact same time, I will premiere our very first part of my Band 9 IELTS journey on YouTube, which will be the test registration. So hang out for that, or come back for that tomorrow at this same time. Good job, everyone. Great participation. Keep practicing. Your English will improve. Our brains are learning machines. Remember that. Much love to all of you wherever you are in this beautiful world, and I'll see you tomorrow for the premiere. I'm Adrian, signing out from Victoria here on the west coast of Canada. Bye, everyone.